And with that, greetings and salutations. It is Vagabond Nerds. As you may have noticed, I'm Jason, that's Sean, but we are short one short meatball of interruption.
That's a short joke and an actual acknowledgement to the absence of his presence all in one delivery.
It is.
Bravo, sir.
Thank you. Now, some of you may ask, is it possible for these two to actually get this show interesting without him? And the answer to that is no.
No, not at all.
Luckily, we are joined by Mr. Ben Dunn of Antarctic Press. Say hello, Sean, Ben.
Greetings. Hello.
Greetings, sir.
And for those of you who don't know, Mr. Ben Dunn is the founder of Antarctic Press, an independent publication. And he has created such characters as Warrior Nun Ariella, Ninja High School. He has also published, just so much. Just to name it, you published Robotech at one point.
Yes, sir, we did.
You have worked on A Scanner Darkly. Mm-hmm. You also worked on, actually, a favorite show of ours, Exo Squad.
Yes.
So, there's a lot here.
Not to mention the countless how-to books.
Yeah.
Dude, it's amazing. I picked up one of those a long time ago when I was younger. That I remember buying one of those. I think it was the How to Draw Manga. And I was like, this is awesome. It helped. I am not good.
But I guess I failed in my job.
No, man. It definitely taught me some facial awareness and some muscle. I got some structure down, but I have poor vision to pencil ability. What's in here does not come out to here. So, I can trace, I can draw, I can copy, I can do all that fine. I can look and move, but I just can't draw it myself.
Don't say you can't do it. You at least tried. And
I did.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe you find that you are drawn back to it and give it another shot.
Drawn back to it.
So anyway, we have an hour and a half with Mr. Dunn. We're going to prod and divulge his darkest and most intimate secrets.
Gentle prodding.
Yeah, I didn't expect the Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Which is why it works so well all the time.
So it's just a trick to get me
exactly. We now you're here. There's no going anywhere else.
Absolutely.
You notice the spikes along the wall, right?
I'm trapped.
Exactly. So probably let's just start with, you were born in Taiwan.
Yes.
Then you came to the U.S. and you grew up in San Antonio?
For the most part, yes. I was there for almost all my life until I recently moved to the Dallas area. Now I'm living the older part of my life here.
You went to your high school was
Central Catholic.
Yeah, Central Catholic.
Ah, yes, yeah.
It all fits together now.
Yeah, another fellow atheist. Another fellow
the
Catholic graduate.
It fits, yes.
So anyway, so what got you into comics?
Well, I've always loved comics. Ever since I could learn to read, I started reading comics. Mm-hmm. I read Peanuts out of the newspaper strips. I started reading comic books that I would occasionally get, and start off with Richie Rich, or the Harvey comics when I was a little boy, and then I was just drawn to the graphic nature of the feel, and I never really liked just reading real books. I guess it was probably because my short attention span. I just couldn't. When I started a book, I'd be like 10 pages in and said, I'm bored.
Yeah.
So, and then but when I read a comic, I would read it from end to end, no matter how big or thick the comic was, because the graphic and feel and the storytelling, it just appealed to me. And I said, this is what I want to do when I grow up.
I think that's something that a lot of people, the people who look down on comics don't seem to understand, is that it's an amalgam of both the visual and the prosaic. And the thing is, the art allows you to sort of skip through all the fluff of a story, and you can get just to the meat of it, to the character interaction, to the communication back and forth, and the visuals sort of take care of everything else. Whereas with a book, you have to spend all that time telling people where you are, what people are wearing, what they're doing, and so it just sort of cuts all that out. And
a well-written book is always a treat, and I can hear an audio version of a book, no problem. It's just sitting there on all the letters seem to attack my eyes all at once, and I just I I can't take that. It's just too much.
Overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know, so and also I just like the graphic nature of comic books because back in the day, everybody had sort of their own style, you know, their own feel.
Yeah.
You know, I could always tell one artist from the other almost immediately just by looking at what they've drawn.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
remember that.
And if and they all had just some artists I really liked, some artists I didn't like so much, and some artists I thought was didn't do it for me. You know, but later on I discovered I actually like this guy. Like I never liked Jack Kirby growing up.
Right.
You know, I thought his stuff was blocky and kind of cartoony and over the top. You know, but then as I got older, I began to appreciate his art style more and more. Until I suddenly, when I was in like high school and college, I said, just Jack Kirby's really, no matter how far away I could get, I could always tell this was a Jack Kirby piece.
Right.
You know, it was such a brilliant job at creating his own style that, this was the brilliance of the man. He was able to create his own style so that almost anybody who saw his work would say, oh, that's a Kirby piece.
Oh, absolutely. And he also, revolutionized how we even do,
The graphic nature,
sequential,
storytelling. I mean, before comic books, before he came along the scene, comics were kind of dull and drab. Well, I won't say dull and drab, but they were non-threatening.
Right. Yeah, he played with visuals a lot more than a lot of people had previously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you had Will Eisner who sort of said, hey, this is how you tell the story. And then Jack Kirby's like, this is how you yell the story.
Sort of like a Quentin Tarantino mashup of a mix-up of the way the story's told entirely.
Well, I mean,
Pulp Fiction in a
if
way.
you think about it, when Marvel first started out, what did they got to lose? I mean, they were on the verge of always being on bankruptcy anyway. And then when, Stanley, got the inspiration to do the Marvel. I'm sure when he first started, he didn't say, "Oh, I'm going to create the Marvel universe."
Right.
No, he just said, "Oh, I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want."
Right. Here's some characters. Here's
some
my idea. Let's go with it.
Let's do whatever we want. And,
Yeah.
if we're going to go out in a blaze of glory, let's go
just
out
do
in a
it.
blaze of
Yeah.
glory.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's actually what happened with Spider-Man. It was the Amazing Fantasy's last issue. And his wife told him, well, hey, since it's your last issue of this comic anyway, just do what you've always wanted to do. And so he's like, well, my editor doesn't like the Spider-Man character that I've come up with, so I'll just go and throw this in this one. And it wasn't until 6 months later when they got the figures back on the sales. Like, the editor comes in, I think it was Goodwin at the time, Archie Goodwin. And anyway, he comes back and says, hey, remember that Spider-Man character we both liked so much?
And not just the sales, but fan reaction, too.
Oh, absolutely.
That was back then before the internet. People had to actually write letters.
Yes.
And when people started writing letters, that means that they took the time to get a piece of paper out.
Yeah.
To write a letter,
Yeah.
put it in an envelope.
Lick a stamp.
Stamp
it
to
on
the
there.
post
Yeah.
office.
Yeah, drop
and
it off.
mail it in. Not just
Yeah.
oh, your stuff sucks
Yeah.
big time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna open up my Yelp app and bitch about how much I hated this taco. This sucks.
Yeah,
Really?
I mean,
that's the impetus of your
Yeah.
So you have that nowadays. You have that immediate ability to send your opinion, to be read by thousands of people. But back in the day, editors took letters very seriously.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm sure when they started getting letters in, it's like, well, I just love this Spider-Man character. He knew he probably had something big.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. But what's funny is Jack Kirby actually did the first cover. The original cover was done by Jack Kirby, but he even gave it originally to Kirby to design, but he didn't like how it was coming out.
Yeah.
So that's why it went over to Ditko.
Yeah, can you imagine if Kirby actually had done Spider-Man? I mean, it would have been a totally different.
Oh, it
kettle of
was.
fish.
It wouldn't. It's just one of those things where, like you were talking about luck earlier. That's what it was. It was just the right combination of people, and the fact that he would have normally gone to Jack Kirby and said, "Hey, can you do this for me?" And that he did do that up front. And
Yeah.
he's like, "It just doesn't feel right. Let me give it to Ditko, who is a very different artist when he with his storytelling and the way he draws characters."
Oh, absolutely. And that is to Stan Lee's credit. Because
Yeah.
as the writer and editor, he knew that Jack Kirby was not a good fit for Spider-Man.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
and he could have just let it go. He could have said, "Oh yeah, Jack Kirby, he's my good guy. He's gonna,
Yeah.
he's going to do Spider-Man. It's going to be great." But
Yeah.
it would have been a totally different book, I'm sure, altogether.
Oh,
if
absolutely.
Kirby had got a hold of Spider-Man. And because of that decision, they then Spider-Man became what it was, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of people poo-poo Stan Lee, you know, saying, "Oh, you know," it's like he takes credit for everything.
Yeah.
Now, you know, and you know, Jack Kirby's always had that. People always say, "Oh no, Jack Kirby wrote a lot of that stuff." But
Yeah.
I mean, if you read Jack Kirby's stuff unfiltered,
Oh yeah.
it's Jack Kirby has a very wry, weird writing style.
Yeah.
You know, that seems to just not fit in like normal conversation.
Yeah.
Almost just a rough around the edges kind of thing.
Well, yeah, you know, he'll say, and the characters say and do things that are just like nobody in real life would ever say.
No, but that's
something
not.
like
Yeah, that's not a natural conversation these
Right.
two people are having.
So, but
yeah.
Stan was able to humanize.
Yeah.
You know. That
Yeah.
dialogue.
In a way that it seems dated now, but at the time, that's how it worked. In fact, one of the things I liked about I think this is something that a lot of people don't understand is back in the day they were doing like Kirby was doing often two books and plus covers plus fill-in work a month. That's a huge amount of drawing, and so
Yeah.
what and Stan was writing like all the comics. So what they did was he would just come up with an idea for a comic and say, "Here's the basic plot. Here are the characters that I'm thinking of putting in here. Here's the overall story." And he'd hand it to an artist, and the artist would sit down, and they would create that story from just this brief outline. And sort of like he would hit the high points, and then they would create the story. And then Stan would go back and put in the words.
Yeah.
And it was a very different process from
That's
what we
interesting.
see now, where
Yeah.
where there is
Yeah,
a
it's
writer.
considered the Marvel style of
Yeah.
writing. Back
Yeah,
then, you know?
yeah.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
very
different, and he let the artist pretty much a lot of free reign.
Yeah.
And when back in the day, the writer and the editor had very strict control
Yeah.
over the art. But now Marvel had a very loose, and it felt like they were just having fun doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
It became very much a collaboration, and that's actually how we got the Silver Surfer, because Stanley didn't actually create the Silver Surfer. He said, "Here's this basic plot," and he's flipping through the page. He's like, "Jack, what's this guy on a surfboard?" And he's like, "Well, if you're talking about this guy named Galactus, he's this all powerful being. He'd have a
minion.
herald of some
Yeah, a
kind,
herald,
and
yeah.
so." And he even I was watching an interview where he talked about basically he was like, hey, he pulled that out of the Bible. It's like, Galactus is God and the Silver Surfer is Lucifer in a way. It's like he just took those themes and it's like, this is sort of the story you're telling. Let's go ahead and actually really go the full Monty on this.
Sure.
Interesting.
As long as you don't think a guy is going to appear in big purple tights.
Yeah.
Right,
With
right.
a big G on his chest.
A big purple kilt. Yeah.
But John Byrne explained it pretty well in one of his other books. Is that Galactus appears what planet that the character that the planet thinks he should look like.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a very
That's
good
interesting.
trick.
I like that.
Yeah,
So
that
it
he's
was,
not necessarily, he doesn't
Oh,
actually
yes.
look like that. It's more of an energy thing. It's just that's how we're perceiving him.
right.
Right.
That's why in the movie, I think that's why they opted for that big cloud,
Swirling cloud of
because
doom.
I don't think most people would buy the big guy in the
big purple
horns.
with the
But
antlers and the helmet and everything.
that
Yeah,
would have been such a cool image.
yeah had
In
they,
the movie,
yeah.
had they done that,
Yeah.
Plus they probably would have sold a heck of a lot more toys.
Oh, yeah.
It's true,
You
because it's
actually
really
had
hard
a
to
real-
sell a
A big-
purple cloud.
That's right.
That's
It is.
difficult.
It is
Yeah.
difficult.
That's difficult. Also makes a lot of parents angry. It gets all over the place.
Yeah.
It's in the carpet. How do you? Yeah, it's a bad. That's just a bad thing.
Yeah, I swear to God. It's like like Black Panther is a good example of that too. I believe he's like the very first black superhero in comics. Is he not? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm really trying. See, we actually had this conversation.
We had the conversation, but we had it similar to the movies because
Right,
we were
to the
discussing
movie.
about comic books, the first appearance of a black superhero in
Right.
movies, which we determined was Meteor Man.
Yeah, which was a good movie. That's
It was a good
hold your
great
tongue.
movie.
It
yeah.
was a good movie, but I don't actually know what the first black character was in comics as far as lead superhero.
I'm going to say this. That may be true, but I want to say there's another character, the Black Opal.
I'm sure there was probably one in the Golden Age,
Let's
maybe an
find-
Yeah,
obscure.
we'll have to look that
character.
up. We'll Vagabond nerds, if you can right now, all of our nerdians, if you can go out there and find that and then post it in the link in the description below, we would really appreciate that. Otherwise, I'll come up with it. But I want to say there's a Black Opal who was operating World War II. The thing is, I don't know if that's if that was like a retro, if that was a retroactive story thing.
Yeah, it's possible.
Well, it says that the first black superhero in mainstream American comic books is Marvel's the Black Panther,
Oh,
who
there you
first appeared in Fantastic Four number 52, originally conceived by Jack Kirby
There you go.
as a character named Cole Tiger.
Ooh.
That's kind of, I like the way that sounds kind of cool
See,
too.
that's
Yeah.
where the Stanley
But
comes
that's
in.
how-
Yeah, and he comes in and says, "No, we're gonna do Black Panther
Cold
instead."
Tiger
Cole
Stan.
Tiger.
I can imagine,
Yeah.
the Jack. I don't know.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I don't know, but Cole Tiger sounds like a jazz musician.
Ooh, yeah, that's actually that's sultry.
Yeah.
I like that. That's nice.
But there was also a Warner Brothers cartoon called Coal Black. And the
Because
Seven Dwarfs.
yeah.
Seven
Yeah,
Dwarfs. It's with a
seven.
B.
Right,
Yeah.
Seven Dwarfs. Excuse my eubonics there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so there could have been some negative connotations attached. That perhaps, I mean, maybe Stan was sensitive about that. Who knew? You know?
Well, I don't think Stan was sensitive to a lot. But
Well,
that being said,
but I mean, you think about it though.
no, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. No, he does. Yeah, like some of the stuff that DC did back in the day. Like you're right. You didn't really see a lot of the same stuff going on with Marvel. So maybe he was. But I also think it's just Stan is a master salesman. Like, I think he understands marketing.
I mean, you can sell ice to an Eskimo.
that's part of the reason he does all, like you were saying, he does the words. He comes back in, he fills it in. He's like you were talking about, touching up Kirby's, polishing up his work and saying, okay, we're going to do this. It's the way he can relate to people and make them more human and speak to them. He has that nature. So
Yeah.
Well, he's been around the block a few times. I mean, if you know anything about his career, he's been around since World War II, right?
Yeah.
In comics,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
So he knows what it's like to write and draw not draw, but
Yeah.
write stories.
Right.
You know, I mean, he knows what it takes.
Yep.
You know, even when he was doing his monster phase in romance, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
he wrote everything.
Yeah.
He wrote monster comics, he wrote romance comics, he wrote westerns, war. I mean, he was just a guy who could write just about anything and make it entertaining.
that's nice.
Oh, absolutely.
That's cool.
For Raymond, who is watching apparently from his sick bed, he says that no, the FF movie that opted to suck. So it wasn't that they were opting to be more visually interesting. They just opted for suck. Sir, go back to bed.
No,
You're sick.
Keep watching so you can tell Jason the things he needs to do.
But it's because of Marvel, because I was a big Marvel guy growing up. I loved Marvel comics. DC, not so much, except for Batman.
You
Okay.
Yeah.
and I have the exact same thing because that's what I was telling. We were talking about
See,
this.
I think Batman's a Marvel character that ended up in DC. I mean, if you think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
So,
it's just-
so he got whammied and pulled over into the DC universe out of the Marvel universe, and he doesn't remember anything about the universe in Marvel, and he's in the
that's my
parallel of
theory.
DC.
That's my thing. Once
you
he
hear
got-
that, Ray?
Once he
Suck
became,
it.
once Robin was attached to Batman, that changed the whole dynamic.
It did.
Yeah.
It did change a lot.
Okay. Because before Robin came out, Batman was this badass character who just like fought crime like nobody's business.
He's just a detective
I
with
mean,
some
if he had to
extra
use a
money
gun,
and-
damn, he's gonna use a gun.
That's
You
true.
know,
Yeah.
if he had to hang some villain by the neck by
Yeah, he
rope,
did it.
he did it.
He did it.
You know,
Yeah, he was
to
he was
him
hardcore.
You know, the justice system was an inconvenience.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was
the
more like-
true vigilante.
Right.
Yeah, he really was very much like the Punisher.
That's what I was just gonna relate it
but
to.
with
Yeah.
a little
But
bit
the
more dramatic
Punisher has
flair.
a lot more problems.
He's yes.
You
Yes.
know, I mean, not that any guy dressed in a bat suit has less problems.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, at least he's rich and like
Yeah.
in Justice
you're
League,
rich,
I'm
you're-
rich,
you're-
right?
you're
Yeah,
eccentric.
yeah.
When you're,
I'm
when
rich,
you're-
bitch.
Yeah, if you're rich, you're eccentric. If you're poor, you're insane. So it's like, well,
That is exactly true. The way I love the stereotypical the way that works. Yes.
Yes.
yeah.
If
Now
you're-
now that being said, we're over 20 minutes into the show, and we haven't even begun to ask you about your actual work. But I think this is a good time to transition.
Oh yeah,
So you're reading Marvel.
I
you're
was reading
Jack
Marvel. I
Kirby.
loved Marvel comics, you know, and I said I wanted to start a comic company run like Marvel Comics. Okay, so and I was in college. And I was sucking at college.
Were you in San Antonio doing college? Where'd
I
you
was
go?
at St. Mary's University. I was studying
Oh, okay.
marketing.
Okay.
And it sucked at that because I found out, I thought marketing is like doing ads, you know, but it's like numbers.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it really
you
is.
got to do numbers. You got. I said, "Ugh, anything with number, you think. There's a stereotype that you think Asians are good with numbers. I'm the anti-stereotype. I suck at numbers. Okay, I can't even add anything without a calculator. these
Yeah.
days.
You're offending Austin's white liberal sensibility.
His white liberal
My
sensibility.
apologies.
Please.
That is so not PC.
I'm sorry
my
to shatter
God.
Sorry,
your,
man. I don't know why.
shatter
I
your dome. Your cone of protection.
Yes.
Sorry about that. But yeah, I sucked at math. I was. I did well until algebra 2, but after that it was just like downhill all the way from there. Once I got into geometry. But anyway, I digress. So then I switched majors and I decided to go into computer science. And I was, oh yeah, computer science, that's the up and coming thing. And then numbers.
More numbers.
More
yeah,
numbers.
more friggin' numbers. Yeah.
It's, they all, then back then it was like basic Fortran and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Doing the little loops and I say, oh, screw this. And then decided to go into pre-med, but then I sucked at pre-med too. So I said, college's not for me. It was just sucking money,
Yeah.
and I wasn't getting any satisfaction out of it.
Yeah.
So what I did was I saved up all the money I could and borrowed the rest and went into partnership with a friend of mine who also wanted to do comics. We got about $5,000 together and started Antarctic Press.
Oh.
And this was about the time that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles started to explode. There you go. That's what I'm talking about, my friend. And it was like 84. You start seeing the first ads
Yep.
for the comic, and then exploded on the scene, created the whole black and white boom. And it says, oh, now's the time to get in. Because Diamond and all the regular distributors were opening up their being able to they opened up to other publishers,
Right, instead of just Marvel,
Just
DC,
in
the big
Marvel,
boys.
DC,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And because of the Turtles, who basically busted open the floodgates,
Yeah.
for all these independent comics to come out. See, I consider Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the Fantastic Four of modern comics. If it wasn't
Yeah.
for
That
Teenage
makes a lot
Mutant
of
Ninja
sense.
Turtles,
That makes a lot of
Absolutely,
sense.
there
yes.
would be no independent comic scene.
That makes a lot of because they did make. I mean, they made it so
Yeah.
far as to get onto TV
I mean, there
and
was
have a
there was
long running
the-
cartoon
That's
series
exactly right.
for
There was
kids.
the underground
I mean,
scene. Okay.
yeah.
But that never broke into anything significant. I
Right.
mean, the highest level was the Fritz the Cat movie that came out back in the 70s. But
Yeah.
that was the pinnacle.
which wasn't that more of like a racy
And it
type
didn't-
of.
Yeah. Oh,
and it didn't
absolutely
hit
was,
the
yeah.
mainstream.
No, it didn't because it was
Okay.
still too. It
Yeah.
was too racy. It was too
Right.
weird for most
Yeah,
normal.
parents
yeah.
are not going to buy Fritz the Cat.
Yeah,
toys.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just
not
the end to
happening.
end all. No, yeah,
No.
exactly. So the Turtles, I consider the FF of the independent comic world.
Okay.
They started the modern age of comics.
Yeah.
That's their importance, I think.
Yeah.
To the whole.
That's
industry.
what bridged me into comics was getting to start watching them
Right.
and reading them. So,
So, but then, to preface this, I also went to Taiwan in 1975. And I was about 12, 13 years old, and this was my first overseas trip of any kind. And then when I went there, I discovered that hey, people in other countries read comics too. I did not know that. I mean,
Yeah.
stupid kid
no,
like me.
but it's one of those
Yeah.
things you don't think about
Right,
that
I
because
don't
you're
think about
here
it. I'm
and you're just
here.
watching
Yeah.
things
I just
go on.
assume
Yeah.
everybody in the world reads the same comics as I do.
Right.
Everyone reads Marvel and DC. Everyone reads DC.
It's with music and everything. It's the same idea. Yeah.
You just
yeah.
project.
Right.
So when I went to it, that's why I think you should, if you ever have a chance to visit a foreign country, you should.
Oh, we have. I love it. Yeah, we were. Yeah.
So when I was there, I was like, everybody here does everything different.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And then when I discovered that they had different kind of comics, and I said, they produce their own comics? And that's when my relative said, oh, yeah, they're called manga. Okay. I said, manga? So what kind of word is that? So they introduced me to the manga, which were essentially bootleg reprints of the Japanese comics. Taiwan was a big...
They were bootlegging
Yeah.
a lot of them.
bootlegging
Yeah.
a lot of
yeah.
stuff. I
What
mean,
was
licensing? Eh?
Yeah. What was the first? Do you remember the first one you were
I
introduced?
do. When I was my parents and my relatives took me to a local store, and there you could either buy comics or rent them. Believe it or not, you
Rent
can
comics?
Okay. What?
You could
This
rent.
is
comics.
interesting.
This
Okay.
is when Taiwan was not the big powerhouse,
Yeah, yeah.
economic juggernaut.
Not the
Yeah,
production
it's not-
house that it is
Right.
now. Yeah.
And people, they didn't collect them. They read them
And
and
then-
they just tossed them. So instead of just wasting and willing
Right.
landfills,
Oh, yeah. Renew, reuse.
they just
Yeah.
renew and renews. And
Yeah.
you could rent a book for like a penny
Right.
You know, for a day or something like that.
Yeah.
Where are
like
you-
a library. Like,
Right. Or you could buy a book for like 25 cents. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, you know, since we were foreigners and had lots of money, I said, I'm just going to buy them. You know, because 25 cents, I mean, what's that?
Yeah, now you can take it back with you when you guys leave. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my very first one was Mazinger Z.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Mazinger Z.
Cool,
And
dude.
that, if it was any book in the world that you could start off with for a kid like me,
Yeah.
it had to be Mazinger Z.
That was the one?
Yes.
That's it. But I
Yeah.
didn't know it was called Mazinger Z.
Right.
Okay, because it was some Chinese name translated from Mazinger Z.
Yeah.
But I couldn't understand the language.
Yeah.
But what impressed me was I knew what the story was about.
Yeah, because you can just see it visually. It tells
because
itself.
the graphic
Yeah.
nature of manga is that you don't have to. Is that you could follow the story visually.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what made it very interesting to me.
Were they still? I mean, I know they were bootlegging it, but were they still bootlegging them in the black and white, or
Yes,
they
black
were?
and white.
Okay.
They were still bootlegging, and surprisingly, I did find Marvel comics there too,
Really?
translated into Chinese.
Really?
You know, and I wish I still had them because I did
Yeah.
actually bought a few, but
That'd be cool.
But I've lost them. you
Yeah,
know. I just
yeah.
remember one was a Conan, you know, and but anyway, it
The,
was
the old
it
black
was-
and white was the old black and white magazine Conan's.
It was a color.
Yeah,
comic.
okay.
It was
Color.
still the same size and shape
Yeah.
as the comic. It just had Chinese words on it. You know, so it was really weird because later on I found out we lived near an army base where there was a lot of businesses there that were catering to the servicemen, and there was one place that had like old comics and stuff. I guess. When the servicemen left, they would just say, "You know what? I'm not going to take these comics."
Yeah, here's your boat,
Right,
yeah.
and so I was able to get a whole crap ton of comics for
That's
dirt.
awesome.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, and this was like the mid '70s, so you had a lot of Bronze Age books. That, at the time. But anyway, I fell in love with manga, and I just started buying all the manga I could get, all of it. And as much as I could get. Of course, as being a boy, I was gravitated toward the boys manga.
Right.
And so I bought a lot of Ultraman, Kamen Rider,
Ultraman, yeah.
all those other anything I could get. In fact, I returned back in the '80s and I found a Empire Strikes Back manga adaptation.
Wow.
This was before Dark Horse did.
Right.
So, but anyway, so I said, you know what? I like doing manga.
Yeah.
I started copying, the elements of
styles,
manga, and I said, I'm going to make it my mission to promote manga in the United States. So, so I had my.
Can I just
goal.
say thank you?
Yeah, no, that's a very valuable point. I think that we can't iterate enough is that you really did with your work help sort of pave that way for the acceptance of manga into our culture.
Oh.
And I think that's something that is actually a great segue into a question that we just received. Christian Martinez in Monterrey, Mexico, asked, "When is Warrior Nun Ariella and Ninja High School coming back?"
That's a very good question. I want to bring them both back. Now I don't have the rights to Warrior Nun anymore. They've since gone to Avatar Comics. But Ninja High School is still under the show, and I do want to bring the characters back, and I've been working on it. But unfortunately, my duties as editor in chief of Antarctic Press and new talent development, I just haven't had the time to do any drawing.
Right.
Very, very, very little drawing. Even though that's something I really do want to do. But I do have plans of bringing back Ninja High School, and I may write it, and I may have an artist draw it. So we'll see how that turns out. I've got some pretty good artists in mind to carry on the mantle of NHS, and if it does well, then I'll just keep it going. And if I ever have a chance to do it every once in a while, I certainly will try to do that whenever I can.
Cool.
Absolutely.
But back to when I was trying to do manga.
Yes.
When I came back, I had a whole ton of. My parents did not like me bringing back all this manga because they were heavy.
Yeah.
And
Then they charge.
so they said, "Look,
weight, right?
we'll let you bring back like 20 books." So I had like 150 books. So I had to cull it all down to like my bare favorites.
Yeah.
So I took those with me, and then when I came back to the United States, of course, I went to high school and then And then I said, I'm through with college.
Right.
So I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to start an Antarctic Press. Okay. And we did everything we needed to do to start a company. And then our very first book was Mangazine. Okay. And I think that's the very first comic to use the word manga in the title. Okay. And it's 1985. And we put out our first book. And back then, printers were not dedicated comic book printers, at least not in our local area.
Right. Yeah.
So I had to do the cover in one printer, had to do the interior in another printer, had to do, and then take it back to somebody who could do the saddle stitching. Okay. So literally, we had to drive our cars to 3 separate places just
goodness,
to assemble
man.
the book.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, because the interior would have been in newsprint, so that's
Right.
you're probably going to someone like who does like green sheets on the as
Right,
their
the big,
primary.
huge-
Yeah.
And then we had it trimmed and everything else. So if you look at our early issues, they were very inconsistent. Okay, not only in shape and size, in the first 3 issues do not match at all. So, but anyway, we decided to go with the manga theme because that's where I thought that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I started promoting, the manga aspect of it, and started getting artists who sort of shared my same sentiment. And then from there, we just kept on going. Until we needed a 3-issue miniseries to fill a gap in our schedule. So I said, okay, I'll do a comedy. What's nobody doing right now? It's comedy manga. Okay, so I said, okay, I'll do a comedy manga because I liked at that time Project A-ko had come out. Urusei Yatsura had come out. And those were big hits, and I loved them. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do my own version of those things, of those anime. So I created Ninja High School. And said, okay, after 3 issues, I'm going to move on. Okay, because it was only created as a 3-issue miniseries.
Yeah.
And I had no intention of taking it beyond that. But the sales and the response was so good. Like
a Spider-Man.
Exactly. Got the letters in, and then people started sending me fan art and stuff. And I said, oh, I may be really onto something here.
Yeah, man.
So I decided to keep on going, and I did it for 175 issues, and or 176 issues, and the rest, as they say, is history.
It's history. Yeah.
Oh, we have some artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. There you go.
So yeah, I mean, it I know it sounds like a backhanded compliment. It doesn't, but I mean, when I was growing up, I was I'm a Marvel guy, right? Occasional DC here and there, but mostly I was a Marvel guy. But I always knew about Ninja High School and Warrior Nun. I was always aware that y'all existed. Even though that was just not what I was into at the time, because you're growing up. I'm
much like Jack Kirby, his taste changed, your taste changed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
As I got older, I started getting more into manga. Really, what got me was Blade of the Immortal, Hirokai Samura. His artwork is amazing, and I started understanding like how and things. So I really started getting into manga myself. And but it's one of those things where I always knew that y'all were around, and I always knew your books. Gold Digger. How I liked Vision. I even have a couple issues of Ariella.
Well, that's actually the secret to our ability to survive. I won't say that AP is by any stretch of the imagination a humongous success. Only that it's been around forever. It's because that we're able to like the little mammals in the dinosaur era, we're able to scurry around and pick up the little pieces that nobody else wants. That we're able to find an audience for things that nobody else is catering to.
You fill the niche.
That's exactly, you fill the niche. Because I learned long ago that if you go head to head with the big guys, you're going to fail every time.
Yeah.
And I've seen this over and over again. If since 1985, I've seen people with vast sums of money try to go head to head with Marvel and DC. Every single one of them went under.
Or they get absorbed.
Or they get absorbed.
Yeah.
Like the
Malibu
Malibu and Eternity Comics.
Eternity. What was it? We had the Valiant universe.
I was going to say Valiant.
Then
Vertigo.
And then
Claim.
DC bought Charlton. So it just there was there was no point in going head to head with them.
Right. So carve your own space. And
Well, heck,
Carve your own
Wildstorm.
space.
I mean, that was just an offshoot of Image.
Yeah,
It's just
Wildstorm.
I mean, DC was like, hey, Jim, why don't we just buy your entire universe.
Why not?
And Image is over here like, I guess that can happen. So yeah, but let's not undersell this. I mean, I think that is success. I mean, the fact that, like you said, you're right. You're not Marvel or DC, but the fact that you've been around since 1984, you've got a huge definitely huge and very dedicated following. With the
And that's what we're trying to rebuild.
Yeah.
You see, the thing is that I knew from the beginning that a comic book company is only as good as the creations it makes for itself. The thing is if the comic company owns nothing, okay, then it gets nothing.
right.
Okay, so I knew that there had to be a balance between what a comic company can own and what a creator can own.
Right.
If a creator owns 100%, okay, then the comic company owns nothing. If a comic company owns 100%, the creator owns nothing. There has to be a balance between the two.
Yeah.
And I felt that there has to be some way to create a way that both can benefit and share from a creation.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, if a creator does this thing 100%, then of course he deserves everything. Okay, but if the company puts in a lot of effort to make it a success,
Right.
I think
Yeah.
it should share in that as well.
Yeah, you do a 60-40 kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Definitely.
50, whatever.
50-50, however the
however
contribution
you want
is.
to do. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, I think there has to be a balance between it. The biggest advantage AP has is one of the biggest advantages AP has is because I can draw. I
Yeah.
can draw and I can write. So anything I create belongs to the company. I willingly
Give it to the company, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it has a catalog and an inventory of things it can rely on.
Right.
I mean, look at Marvel. They're reprinting stuff 50 years ago, from 60 years ago. They're
Yeah.
still printing that
absolutely.
stuff
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I mean, I love those the black and white newsprint essentials. I love those.
See, and that's why it's important for any comic creator to have a library of material, okay, that they can draw on, in order to stay. Because they're going to be lean times. And when
Yeah.
lean times come, you got to
Yeah.
rely on the stuff that you can put out that people like, and that you can put out readily and steadily. And that's the key to, I think, a successful small company or a small comic book company. Because like I said, it's all a matter of just being able to get something that both sides can benefit from.
Right. Now, I have a random question. Well, not a random, actually. It kind of does touch on this. So, how much effect did this whole Marvel DC movie universe exploding affect? What did that have an effect on you guys as far as a smaller press? Did it change anything for you? Did you see a difference in it?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think it really did anything other than just make people aware that comics still exist. I mean,
Well, that's a good point.
I mean,
Yeah.
you think about it. We are a population, 300 million people, 350 million people. How many of them actually read comics?
Right.
I mean, if you look at the Diamond top 300, I mean, they sell what? The top comic sells 150,000 copies. That's not even like 0.0001% of the population.
Yeah.
I mean, but look at places like Japan and Europe where almost like 80% of the population read comics.
Right. It's a mainstay in their life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go to the bookstore, you pick
Right.
them up, you pick up the
Exactly.
trade
Why
paperbacks
is
and bring them home.
I ask myself this question constantly. Why is that not possible here?
I think it has to do a lot with, well, Jason touched on it earlier, a lot of people look down on comics. They're going to look down on them as inferior to a book.
I would have believed that maybe 20, 30 years ago.
Oh, well, and definitely, obviously, but it's still, it's harder to break that downcast, that eyes downcast look on a comics than it is. I mean, I think we're starting to probably see that, especially with our generation coming up more, everybody's generation coming up more, being accepting of comics and having Marvel in the mainstream. I think you're going to see a change in that.
I agree. I
But-
think it's going to be a slow process.
It
I
is
think,
a- yes.
It's going to be a generational process.
Right.
And manga, and I ironically think manga is going to help with that because
I think it
remember-
has.
And it absolutely.
It
I
has
remember
helped a lot with it.
when you go into a comic book store and you'd see a couple issues of manga. Sure. I remember, but now you go into Barnes and Noble.
I was, yes,
and they
exactly
had an
what I was going to
entire
say.
wall
I
dedicated to manga.
was thrilled when I went into Barnes and Noble the first time, and I'm looking around at the D&D books and the GURPS
Yeah.
books for tabletop, for role playing, and I stumbled across a section of manga, and I'm like, I saw all these gatherings of Lone Wolf and Cub. I was like, oh, finally, this is fantastic. So, it is trending that way. I think it's just going to take a while.
Well, I think the problem is America was hit with the Wortham trials, which created the Comics Code as a result. And I think that
The Wortham trials?
Seduction of the Innocent.
Okay. You know what? That's an excellent point. So let me explain that.
Not everybody knows about this.
Not everyone knows. Okay.
Back in the 50s.
Yeah, back in the 50s, there was a psychologist by the name of Frederick Wortham. And what had happened was there were some juvenile delinquents who had committed crimes.
He was a psychologist.
And he was a psychologist. He was working on them. And he believed that EC comics and comics in general had a deleterious effect on these children. And for that, he created this. He wrote this book called Seduction of Innocence. There was a trial that was held in Congress. Now, the funny thing is, Congress came back and said, "Hey, there is no more deleterious effect of reading a comic book, be it Superman, Wonder Woman, or EC Comics, which gave us Tales from the Crypt." Which, I mean, you want to see some disturbing stories?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
those old EC comics, they had some disturbing stuff in them. But they came out and said there's nothing more dangerous than reading Treasure Island.
Right.
So it's not a problem.
Lord of the Flies,
Lord of
whatever
the
it might
Flies,
be.
exactly.
Yeah.
Any book you can imagine.
Yeah. Which actually.
And yet, what happened was all the big publishers got together and created the Comics Code.
See, they were so shaken up by that whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, but they also took
that-
the opportunity to put him out, to put the guy who was running EC Comics, whose name escapes me at the time.
William Gaines.
William Gaines, yes. They took the opportunity to put him out of business.
Yeah, because
of
he
the
was
rules.
outselling them.
Oh, by a
Yeah.
lot.
Yes.
By a lot. Because this is before the superhero
So
movement.
what better way to get rid of your competition than
Then
have an act of Congress
Oh
come
yeah,
in?
slander. Yeah,
Well, and that's
nothing like it.
And that's
Yeah.
the whole thing is the Comics Code is a completely independent thing. The Congress said everything's fine. They created, and what they did was they marketed to parents saying, hey, anything with this stamp on it is good, is acceptable
Right,
for your
right.
kid.
For children.
Oh, we've judged it, and we deem that it's acceptable. So you're fine. Yeah, your
Right.
kids are going to grow up fine.
Well, have you ever read the Comics Code?
Oh,
No,
it's-
I have
yeah,
not.
It's
I have not.
insane.
It's
It is
insane.
insane.
Okay, like you can't use the word terror. You can't use the word horror. You can't use the word. You can have only the good guys win at every single story.
well, then
No drug use. Or no
Oh.
mention of drug use. No werewolves. No vampires.
No werewolves.
No, I swear to
I'm
God,
not
it's
kidding.
in there.
I'm believing you. I'm just laughing at the fact that this is what people come up with. This
the
is
word crime has to be in proportion, or it has to be smaller in proportion to some other words on
Right.
on the cover.
this is fascinating.
You can't have any decapitation. You can't have any torture or bondage scenes. You can't have any.
Wow.
Which really affected Wonder Woman. Let's be honest, because those early comics, that was man. And
Yeah, but if you know about the
Wortham may have had a
creator, you
point-
can
Yeah.
Wortham may
understand
have had a
why.
point about
all my
about,
all my
the
Astro
guys-
Boys are just gone now.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, that's a shame. I
Also,
know.
there was a certain the reason Batman went. So the reason Batman's costume was gray and blue was because it needed to
Brighten up.
to brighten up. But the thing is, the comic printing
Yeah, the Dark Knight
technology.
yeah,
needs to be bright.
you got to use gray and blue to brighten up a situation.
What do you think,
Yeah,
Robin?
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
bright blue?
Bright, yeah, bright's looking pretty good.
Doesn't do a thing for you, Batman.
Exactly. Well, part of it is he
Brings out your eyes.
exactly. Well,
Brings out the white of your eyes.
The problem is the printing presses back in the day were, I mean, it's very, very primitive. The colors have to stand out. But beyond that, the reason they went with that whole yellow oval was because of the Comics Code. Because you had to have, no character could have it was like a certain percentage of them couldn't be black as far as the ink goes. Because they were, that's
There's a
Racially
joke there somewhere.
Oh, there it
Thank you
is.
very much, Comic Code, for all of your.
You're
yeah.
welcome. Yeah, so no, it was insane, which is why it's like, what's funny is
That's ridiculous.
one of the big strikes against the Comics Code was that now famous Spider-Man comic where Harry goes and gets high.
The drug use
The
issue.
drug use one. And what's funny is Stan Lee or Archie Goodwin goes to Stan Lee. He's like, "Hey, we need Congress wants us to do something that's anti-drug because Spider-Man's so popular." And Stan Lee,
So he figures,
surprisingly-
all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is funny because surprisingly, we're talking about a guy who created a space Viking who rides a rainbow bridge, and he knows nothing about drugs.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. No,
And
of
so
course.
He's like, so he does this whole pill thing. He's like, and Harry gets high. Well, the thing is, the Comics Code comes back and says we can't approve this. And he's like, and of course they're like, guys, Congress asked us to do this.
Yeah.
No, it was the president. The president asked us to do this, and it's an anti-drug message. Like, I'm sorry, this doesn't pass the code. And so,
Oh,
they actually-
bureaucracy! How I love thee.
Exactly. They
Well,
ran
you have
with
to
it
just
anyway.
stand guts.
Yeah.
Go with it. And say, you know what?
Oh, yeah.
Screw you. I'm just
Yeah.
going to do it. you know?
Yeah, that's
And then what
fantastic that he
happened?
did.
Spider-Man survived.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay. In fact, it became probably even more popular because
It's
of
going to
that.
touch some more
You know,
people's
so then-
lives.
and
yeah.
then I think other publishers were, hey, if Stan can get away with that,
So
then
can we.
so can we.
Then you get the Green Arrow, Green Lantern story arc where they're going through
And of course, by
America.
that time, underground comics really started to appear too,
Yeah.
without the comics code, and they did whatever the hell they wanted.
Yes, they did.
You know, so
Whether it made sense or not, people.
and I think it was one time underground comics were almost selling as much as the mainstream comics.
Yeah.
because first of all, they were more expensive.
Oh yeah.
So the profitability was higher,
Right.
And they were talking about subject matter that was verboten. And
Yeah, if you're not bound by that code, you can talk about a reality,
sorts
the
of
reality of the situation.
that's
so
right. And, so
that's more relatable to most people, anyways.
Well,
Yeah.
also because the baby boomers were starting to get in college age,
Mm.
so they were very much into that counterculture.
That makes us
thing
a
too.
very good point. You make a very good point. Yeah.
Absolutely. But you notice most of them have not survived the test of time.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing I can think of is like Fabulous Freak Brothers. People maybe remember that. Fritz the Cat, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's one whose name escapes me. It was sort of a sword and sorcery fantasy kind of thing, but I think it was set in a dystopian future. The artwork was amazing. It really reminded me of some of the stuff that Kringle.
Yeah,
whose
there was
name I
like the
blanking
First
out.
Kingdom. There was like,
Yeah.
that's when all the underground comics started to become.
And they were fascinating, but they feel very dated.
Right.
You just look at them like, why would anyone ever buy this?
Sort of like the heavy metal type
but
of thing.
They're
Yeah.
fun to read.
Yeah.
You should, if you ever have a chance to read some of those underground comics, they were saying a lot back then.
Yeah.
Because they had a message to send.
Right.
They didn't simply want to do a adventure of the month type thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so they really had something. But the problem was it's not very marketable, and so. The long-term viability of it is only as long as the creator shows continued interest in doing it.
Right.
Once the creator stops showing interest, then the book dies.
Yeah.
You see, and that's how come Marvel and DC are able to survive. He says, "Okay, Bob Kane, you're leaving Batman. Yeah, we'll just hire your so and so to do the
Yeah. He'll
book."
come in and write some more.
He'll
Yeah.
write the book. So that's the beauty of not the beauty,
Hmm.
but that's the advantage of comic companies owning the character.
Right, because they can just have anybody write the story
That's
and
right.
draw and everything. I mean, everybody can do this. We
Yeah.
own it. You guys run it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe there's a beauty to it because that's where you get these different perspectives on the characters and you get these different concepts, and it allows you to take some. The creator may not have thought about doing this with that character, but yet that happens.
That's right. If when Ditko left Spider-Man, a lot of people said, "Oh no, it's not going to be Spider-Man anymore. Spider-Man's dead. He's never going to survive." But here it is, still a top character. No matter who does Spider-Man, it's Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I could have some schlub off the street who can't draw word beans do Spider-Man, and it would still
It'd still
sell.
be. Yeah.
Would still sell.
Yeah.
And that's
There's
the
a
thing
joke
about
I'm going to
Spider-Man.
make. I can't.
Beans?
I can't make that.
No. Okay.
No, I was going to make a Rick Leonardi joke. The thing is, I really love Rick Leonardi's artwork.
Yeah, I do too. He was a big Copper Age artist back in the day.
Is that what they're calling the '80s, the Copper Age?
Oh, come on! Are you a comic critic, Fletcher? No, I think not.
No, I think once you get once you get past the golden age, anything else starts getting.
Well, it's
becomes too
American thing
subjective.
about making everything into nice little
Categories?
Yeah,
I don't believe
yeah,
in
there's
that.
I
there's
agree.
an
It's
Comics
all
are
good.
comics,
Everything's
but-
good
But for a
regardless.
collector, it's easy for us to
Yeah.
dictate a certain thing.
Right. Well, that's
know.
how you. That's also how you help us. It helps you to establish the
Identify.
merit and the wealth of it, or where it sits
Right.
in
but
everything.
you can't
So-
get any collector to agree on when one age ends and
No.
one begins.
It's all
'cause-
relative.
So, you asked them, well, when do you think the Copper Age began? He says, well, I start off with,
In his opinion, it was here
Yeah,
to
and you
here, and
ask
they go,
another
but no, it was
collector-
2 years later.
Yeah, they'll say, like, when did the Bronze Age start? So people say, Conan #1. Some people say, Green Lantern 76. You don't know, Batman 251. I mean, it's just like no one can ever agree on when an actual
Yeah.
age started.
It's really more of an opinion.
Well, again, the whole concept is like you're going to have, again, because I come from an art history background. That's the whole thing is in archaeology. It's like there's no there's never going to be a delineate because you're going to have things that carry over. Like everyone talks about a Bronze Age and an Iron Age.
Well, they bleed into each other. It always bleeds into each
other.
other.
The thing is, you can find iron artifacts in the Bronze Age. You
Same,
find bronze in the Iron
right.
Age.
It's the same way the fashion styles. I mean, in 1992, you still had people wearing puffy shoulders. You know, it was 80s, but it was still coming across. So
what's ironic is that they consider today comics era the modern age, and I thought, what?
why is that? Yeah.
I mean, okay, so when does the modern age end?
Right. Isn't there an
they
onyx
just said no,
age?
perpetually from now until forever. It's always going to be the modern age.
I think they'll probably change it to like the millennial age, where around the 2000s.
where it all feels very
Where it feels-
entitled and,
yeah.
and doesn't do much.
Snowflake age. Exactly.
Well, I mean, look at the comics coming out nowadays. It feels that way, doesn't it?
I was actually when I mentioned
Each comic feels very entitled.
Right.
Well, I was actually going to make a comment when I mentioned getting the old essentials. I was like, I like to buy the old essentials. And I was about ready to go. You listening, Marvel? Because I ain't buying your crap now. Anyway, but yeah,
Words and opinions expressed by Jason McLean are not part of the Vagabonds nerds. Thank you.
they aren't
Thank you.
advertising with us. Let's just they can suck it. I love your movies, Marvel, but yeah, call us if you want
You
good
see, the
comics.
thing
again.
is, I haven't read a new comic in like years, but
Yeah.
I read all about them.
Right.
See, I love hearing about people's opinions about comics and what they say about the state of comics.
Mm-hmm.
I had not realized there was some big when Marvel made their change to do this whole SJW run of the Marvel characters. I had never even heard the term.
Yeah.
Okay, I said, SJW, what does that mean? And then they said, oh, it's social justice warrior. And I said, oh, so that's what Marvel's been doing. That's what they've been taking with all their characters. They've been taking
Right.
all their characters, and diversifying them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, making
Yeah.
them women or minorities or what
Yeah.
have not.
Yeah.
And
Iron Man's a black girl right now. And
Right.
then what was the other? You mentioned the Filipino
there's Ms. Marvel.
Ms. Marvel. Thank you.
Ms. Marvel became
Thank you.
Captain Marvel, and then they have a Pakistani girl who became Ms. Marvel.
Yeah, right.
So I haven't read any of those books, so I
Yeah.
have no opinion on them
No, yeah,
whatsoever.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I have read what other people thought of them. And it's like, boy, that Marvel must have really touched a nerve when they started doing all this.
Really?
Because all I kept reading from longtime readers was that, oh, this is terrible. Okay,
So they're-
it's ruined Marvel.
Really?
It's like it's, and then I read other people's opinions. Oh no, it's diversifying thing. I think what the problem I narrowed it down to is that people didn't want to take classic characters
Mm-hmm.
and just mucking around with them. Okay, and making them totally different. Why,
Yeah,
if they were
I get
confident,
that. I get
if they were
that.
confident, why didn't they create their new Black Panther or their new, create a
Yeah,
new
bring in
character,
a new character that is
diversified
instead of just making it fit.
It
Just
said,
okay, you know what?
Captain America, woman,
Right. We'll show
Thor,
this.
woman.
I understand. Yeah. That makes sense, and you have a very valid point with that. And there's a lot of things that bugs me the
Well,
same
apparently
way. So.
it bugged the retailers also because they were seeing their sales just drop
Yeah.
huge amounts.
But it did. Oh, but that's the other. The swing side of that is it did open that up for a lot of people who wouldn't have read it otherwise.
Well, that may be true, but was
Yeah.
it enough?
Right. I get
Did
it.
it bring enough
yeah.
people? In other words, did he bring more readers over to make up for the loss of readers?
Or did they just lose?
Apparently, it was not enough.
Really?
Yeah, 'cause
Interesting.
If let's say it was overwhelming, let's say the SJW Marvel
Mm-hmm.
was a tremendous success. Let's say they're selling, 400,000 or 500,000 copies of these new version. Then Marvel would have said, you know what, we're just going to stick with it because the numbers don't lie. See, that's the thing, numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
And if the sales were good, they probably would have stuck with it. But they were seeing a drop in sales. They were seeing retailers and fans complaining, and they knew the writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
So they replaced their old editor-in-chief with one of my old editors-in-chief, C.B. Slavoski, who was who edited my Marvel Mangaverse.
Right.
Oh, really?
Right.
Yeah, so I congratulated him, and he always writes back to me. I always give him credit for that, because he didn't have to. But
Right.
he always wrote back
Yeah.
to me, and we would discuss things, and then I didn't want to pry into anything that he may have plans for. But,
Right.
I did congratulate him for being editor in chief. So, and that's one of the things that I think he's trying to do is to bring back that old feeling that of the old Marvel characters.
Yeah.
And just take whatever was the most successful out of SJW Marvel, and maybe just do their own thing with it.
Yeah, do some spin-offs. Have some side characters that go out with it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you feel confident about your character, create a new character.
It did bug me when they decided to make changes to random. And I don't like when
It seemed at random, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't like it when they do just make the change for the sake of like you pointed out. All right, well, let's just diversify because it's like diversity is great, and I really think we should have more of it. But why don't you guys put some more thought into that and have a good character and just do it?
At least DC did it with Milestone. You know, with they did their thing with Static Shock and
Yeah.
the other characters. At least they had the balls to go ahead and say, let's
Right.
do a diverse
Right.
line, but let's create an own line and let it survive based on its own
Right, but
merits.
you give more content that way. You've put out more content. There's more room for it to grow while still maintaining the base that you of all these fans you've already pleased.
Yeah, and you never know who might be the breakout hit. Like apparently, Static Shock is a very popular character.
Yeah.
still around.
Yeah.
I think he's incorporated into the DC universe. Apparently,
Sort of.
Sort of.
That's a really interesting story that we don't have time to get into.
that we don't have time to get into. Really?
Well,
Okay.
I don't want to talk about Dwayne McDuffie's character when I've got Ben Dunn right here.
oh,
yeah.
you know me. I like talking about comics in general, anyway. So
We'll talk about it at lunch because it's actually a really interesting story. But no, I mean I think that's very much the point here, right? It's like they take Captain America but they take Falcon and they make him Captain America. It's like you already had one viable character. If you want to have a black Captain America, I think everyone's fine with it. And if any character, if there was one thing when they killed him the first time, it's like you had a perfect opportunity to really make Captain America diverse and with an explanation, which is he's just a guy who was given super soldier serum. And if you want to really give yourself an out, just do it where, okay, we can give you all the powers of Captain America and we can give you a shield for a year and a half.
It's kind of like when Superman died,
Yeah.
and all the other stand-in Supermen came around. They had the robot Superman show, but they weren't Superman, and we all knew that.
Yeah,
it's the
exactly.
same idea.
Yeah, just say, hey, look, we have
yeah, but in this case, they actually did take the mantle.
No, but
of the characters.
right. I'm saying your proproposal
Yeah,
would have
just
been that same idea, which
Yeah.
to me would have been. I mean, once again, I like that better. That's more believable.
Which is
where it's
also
like-
interesting because I also some guy did a YouTube article about saying, is Marvel Mangaverse the first SJW Marvel? And I thought, what?
Yeah.
You know, and it's
Okay, I wouldn't have seen- I
I
wouldn't
had
have-
to
yeah.
take a look and see what his opinion was.
Yeah.
I've thought about that at all.
He apparently Marvel Mangaverse is like one of the most derided different worlds Marvel series.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know.
And this is not me just buttering your bread here. I liked it. I actually thought it was interesting.
Well, it's so ironic is that either people loved it or they hated it. Either they really liked it or they really hated it. There was like no gray area.
It's very polar.
It was
Yeah.
no gray
Did
area.
you design the okay, just same topic, but did you design the Spider-Man for that, or who did that?
No, that was Curry Andrews. He did
Okay.
that. That's all his. My original plan when I proposed it to Joe Quesada, who I think it's going to be at the Fan Expo, actually.
Probably.
Cool.
I should say hello to him.
Yeah.
But when my original proposal was that I was going to release each as a single title, okay, in the order that they appeared in the Marvel Universe. So Fantastic Four was the first one, Spider-Man was the second one, it's Iron Man, and so on, so on, so on, so on.
Right.
But then Joe Quesada said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and put it as a 5th week event. Now, anybody who doesn't know what a 5th week event is, okay, Marvel ships books 4 weeks a month. But every once in a while, there's a month with 5 weeks.
Right.
And then Marvel doesn't like to have an empty week.
Yeah.
Okay, so they fill in that 5th week with whatever they can think of.
That's a random week.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's why you get sometimes these weird Marvel books
Yeah.
on the 5th week.
Yeah, okay.
So it just so happened there was a 5th week coming up, and he said, let's shoehorn Marvel Mangaverse into this 5th week, but it was coming out really fast. So we had to really rush to develop the Marvel Mangaverse, which I had actually thought is a long thought out regular process.
Yeah.
So I says, I can't do 10 books in 1 week.
Yeah.
In a couple of months.
Yeah.
I said, okay, that's fine. You do the bookends, and I'll find someone to do. I'll have editor. I think that's where C.B. Cebulski came in. I'm not quite sure, but I think that's about the time he came in and said, we'll go ahead and fill in the rest of the gaps with other people doing manga-esque versions of the Marvel characters. You know, and I said, okay, fine. Because truth be told, I was just ecstatic I was doing anything for Marvel. That was one of my, you know, bucket list things.
Yeah, of
before
course.
I die.
Right.
You know, so I just want to work for Marvel. You know?
Right.
And I've tried over the years to get into Marvel. I remember buying the Marvel tryout book, you know, and spending days,
Yes.
you know, working on that. And I also sent in submission after submission. But you know what? Back in the day, Marvel actually wrote you back. See, that
Really?
when they it was of course a reject. Oh yeah, a form letter, but it was very, very Marvel-esque.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, dear submitter, your stuff is crap. Stop writing to us. Okay? So it was like, you know, hey, true believer, wow, we got your stuff in.
Yeah,
and
I've seen
everyone
that
in the
stuff.
bullpen thought it was really
Yeah.
good, but we just don't think you're right up to snuff at the moment. I mean, they were very encouraging.
Right.
You know, I don't know if Marvel does that nowadays. I'm sure they don't, but you know, back in the day, they really cared about their fans.
Yeah.
I mean, they really, really cared about their fans, which
Yeah.
made me even more of a diehard Marvel guy. But anyway, anyway, the guy suggested that all the stuff I did in Marvel Mangaverse was SJW stuff. Okay, I made a lot of made Iron Man a female.
Yeah.
Okay, I did a lot of stuff in there that suggested that the characters were just offbeat, weird, and
Yeah.
you know. And I tried to diversify the whole the thing.
Yeah.
You know, but that wasn't intentional. I just
Yeah.
thought, oh, you know, this would be cool. You
Right,
know, that,
yeah.
that was my thought.
Yeah, you weren't doing
know.
it because you were saying I want to diversify
Right.
and make this, like you said, the SJ. You
Right.
were doing it because you're like,
I
this will
just
be
thought-
neat to be
I just
different.
wanted to make manga tropes.
Right.
I took
Right,
manga
yeah.
tropes and I took them in and just shoehorned them into the Marvel Mangaverse as best I could with the time frame that was allowed.
Right.
You know, if I was given more time, I would have probably given it a lot more thought. You know, but I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna do what's fun.
Yeah.
You know, just say I'm gonna have fun with this. I'm just gonna go crazy.
Right.
You know, and just see where the chips fall. You know, and the book did surprisingly well when it first came out. I mean, people loved it.
Yeah.
You know, they were sold out. It was a hot book. You know, and then Marvel said, you know, I'll give you a 6-issue miniseries. You know, only 6 issues. In fact, it wasn't even a 6 issues. Just said we want to do a series.
Right.
Okay, you know, and the problem was I didn't know what to do. Okay, so I hired a writer who didn't understand, you know, what it was to do a manga story.
Right.
You know, so I ended up with the Mangaverse series not doing, and truth be told, I was so caught up on getting this book out quickly, you know, that I took shortcuts in my artwork, which I should not have done. But you know, looking back at it, you know,
I mean, you
what's
had to
done
make
is done.
sacrifices to get it out in the time
Yeah,
frame.
right. I
So
had to get out in the time
yeah,
frame.
yeah.
You know, and then so the sales started to slump, and then finally Marvel said, put the kibosh on the Mangaverse. But you know, in some way or another, it still exists.
Yeah.
I mean, they did a lot of spin-off Mangaverse stuff.
Yeah.
The Spider-Man Mangaverse is still one of the most popular characters from that series.
Yeah.
Even so much as, you know, a video game. They made a toy out of him.
Yeah.
Really?
You know.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
In fact, I was trying to get back to sleep because I woke up at like 3 a.m. I was like, what could be the most boring thing I could find? And I was flipping.
Where is this going, Jason?
Hold on. They have I swear to you, Amazon.
This is not the way to butter him up, sir.
Well, hold on. Amazon Prime has actually as a video you can watch a playthrough of I think what looks like a game for your phone that is based on the Spider-Man verse, and one of the characters in there is the manga Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I was just flipping through. I'm like, a game.
Still not winning here, Jason.
No, well, that the thing is that woke me up. I'm like, okay, a playthrough of a handheld phone video game.
Yeah, well,
that's going to put me to sleep in 5 minutes. And
You
all of a
don't
sudden,
see
it's like
the you don't see the 1602 version of Spider-Man in there. I mean,
This is true.
the thing about I think what appeals that Spider-Man Mangaverse actually appeal to kids. You know, that's
Yeah,
the thing.
yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make Mangaverse fun, back to basics type of storyline where
Right.
you had a bad guy and a good guy, and a simple story to go along with it.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to change the world or
No,
anything,
no. It's
I just wanted to take as many characters. I wanted to take as many of the Marvel characters I loved
yeah.
and just do my own spin on them.
And I thought it looks great. Like seeing I really particularly enjoyed Archangel's wings and how they were just all the big
Yes.
talent. I was like, that is really cool. When I saw that, I was like, that's badass. Like
I
that.
can't take credit for that one either.
Well, either way, the idea behind it all when I
Yeah.
saw it was
Yeah.
was so cool. I thought that was great. So
And then,
fantastic.
ironically enough, for something that people, I thought it was just that was the end of it. Marvel really re-released
yeah.
Mangaverse.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, that's cool.
Which
Awesome.
was a surprise to me. I thought, that'd be the end of it. Whatever was out there. But
Yeah.
I mean, why would they do that? I asked myself that question. Why
Yeah,
would they
yeah.
re-release Mangaverse unless they thought there was some sort of demand for it, or they're planning on doing something with it?
Right.
I mean,
right.
Marvel is not the kind of company that will just put stuff willy nilly and
Not yet. No.
and
no.
not have a reason for it.
Oh, unless it's the 5th week.
That may be true.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, but sometimes in the 5th week, you never know what you're going to come up with.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And
know.
that's how they hit on the Mangaverse. Throw it out there, made a little run for
Yeah.
itself. That's good.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So theoretically, Raven will be calling in here.
Theoretically?
any second. Yeah. I texted him the number that should be the main line. So
Theoretically
you'll actually get a chance. Yeah, theoretically speaking. So
Yes.
you may actually get a chance to talk to him. I would like to know what. So we've done in the past. Where is Antarctic Press going in the future? What are your plans? Because
Well,
you've got some new lines that you put out that don't really fall into that traditional manga publication. I find
Well,
that very interesting.
I figured, if someone's already done something, there's no reason to repeat it. Unless it's something they've done very well, in which case you can repeat it. But, my wife's a teacher, and I asked her one day, what, if your kids had a textbook, okay, that was illustrated like a comic, would they be more willing to read it? And she said yes. Irrevocably yes. And they said, well, why do you think that is? Because they say it's the graphic nature of pictures. Okay, if you can show something rather than tell it, kids are more apt to retain it.
Right. Receive,
Right,
understand,
receive
and
the
say,
information.
yeah.
And so one of the ideas I've had is and I don't know how viable it is, and I'm sure schools probably would not accept a comic book textbook. But I think that
Well,
could be something that is definitely
A private school might actually be more apt to accept that versus the publics.
And I
Yeah.
will tell you right now, as a homeschooler, as a homeschool family that works
Oh,
with
there you
co-ops,
go. That would be
homeschoolers
perfect.
will absolutely do that.
Yeah,
they would
definitely.
that would absolutely work because one of the things that for a lot of us who homeschool, the reason we homeschool is twofold. One, we do want a good, we're public schooled and we're like, this isn't working. But the other one is a lot of our kids have maybe not difficulties per se, but like they're too advanced or they learn a different way. I mean,
Public school does not cater to an individual child. It takes
Right.
everybody and throws them together, and different people learn
Well,
at different
they're run by
speeds,
school
paces, and
boards.
ways.
Exactly.
school boards decide,
Right.
what the criteria is going
Right,
to be.
right. And
And
that
they
doesn't work for everybody.
And they assume that
So-
everyone learns the same way.
Correct.
That's the
One
main
size
thing.
fits
Yeah.
all.
Exactly. It's just, and as I've learned from trying on different hats, one size does not fit all. I
We're
have
supposed to be all snowflakes here.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Is there's what was it? Was it? I think the quote is always attributed to Albert Einstein, but they said if you judge a fish by how well it flies, it will always fail.
Right.
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 And that's it's sort of an obvious statement, but that's how we treat education in this country. Is everyone does the same thing, and everyone should fit into the same mold, and they don't. And I think. Honestly, something like that would work very well. In fact, I'm kind of playing with it on.
See, I got the
work I'm
idea
doing.
because I work for a company called Magic Wagon. I'm not sure if you're
No.
familiar with the company, but they do a lot of books for libraries.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Okay.
They sell books
Really?
for libraries.
Okay.
And it's under the Abdo Publishing Company. Now, there was a time in the late 90s we were doing a whole bunch of books for them, illustrating books. That's where I got the idea, because most of the stuff they were doing were historical in nature.
Right.
Berlin Wall, Miracle on Ice, World War II.
Oh, Miracle on Ice. That's a great story.
Things like that. And we were supposed to put historical events in a graphic context.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where I got the idea that if you were to give a kid a book about the Berlin Wall, just a
Right.
regular textbook, and give him a book that illustrated story, told you the behind the thing, which do you think he's going to read?
He's gonna pick,
Yeah.
yeah, he's gonna pick the
comic.
illustrated one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's that what gave me. I mean, if we could explain things that are difficult in a graphic format, I think more people will be understanding.
That's the reason I gravitated towards manga and gravitated towards anime as a child, was because, or as a younger kid. I mean, my first exposure to anime was Saturday morning anime, and they had a run. It was every Saturday they have a run. I think they did Venus Wars.
Yes.
Was one of the first ones that I saw. After that, I saw Akira, and then another one they had. It was.
Yeah, you watch all the good stuff.
Of course. I can't remember what it was. It was a collection of short stories. One of them was a guy racing it was like a death race, and he had to race around, and it was silent. There was no words, but what I loved about it was its ability to deal with more
Mature
issues. Yeah, and I loved that about it. I was like, this isn't just talking down to me like I'm watching some cartoon and I don't know what I'm doing.
Well,
so.
it's the Japanese nature.
And you teach don't teach down to somebody as if they're a little child and be sensitive about it. No, this is the real world.
They don't look at it as a genre or something with limitation. They look at it as a storytelling device.
And I love that.
Okay,
Yeah, that was my favorite thing about Exo Squad. When the first episode, they defy everybody. A bunch of people die. They go on a rogue mission, and then they all get thrown in prison.
Yeah, they do.
They go to prison. And I'm like, what other cartoon show in the Saturday morning, slot is going, hey, we're sending the main characters to prison for a year? Like, that never happened.
And that was the creator's intent.
Yeah.
Wilman
Yeah.
Yo was the creator.
Yeah.
Who I love dearly. He's a good friend of mine. He
Yeah.
said that he wanted to create America's Gundam.
And I loved that about
that's
it.
what he
Yes,
wanted to
that was
do.
what I found so fast. I was like, this is a
he
great
wanted to
cartoon.
do that. But unfortunately, it just didn't sell enough toys or
Yeah,
was
yeah.
too mature for kids.
I think a lot of people just didn't understand it. A lot of kids, it's hard to do
But it
that.
does have a very good cult following. People
It's
still
a huge
remember
cult
it.
following, yeah.
People
And
still remember it.
I still, I need to go out and try to find it somewhere on, because I don't have the VHS anymore.
Maybe we should get the license for it and bring it back.
There you
There
go,
you go.
man.
Now, that's the
Definitely.
plan.
Please. I still have the toys. I did not throw those away. I still have them.
See, I had just read Highland Starship Troopers when I found Exo Squad, and so that was my favorite show. I loved
Yeah.
it. It was smart.
Yeah.
Which, okay, and again, which brings us back why we're talking about Exo Squad. You worked as one of the storyboard artists.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
So you helped plot out that and show you were an integral part of that animation.
Yeah,
concept.
good times.
What was it like doing? What's it like doing a cartoon like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's you got to know what you're doing. First of all, you have to have the ability to take what's written on a page,
Yeah.
and translate that into a visual format that won't take forever to tell.
Yeah.
Because you only have like 22 minutes to
Yeah.
tell a story, and if you do too many scenes, you go over.
Yeah.
Right. We actually Raymond. We've been able to get a hold of Raymond. He's on the phone now.
He can listen.
Raymond, I made man.
I've been listening. I'll tell you what. That's when Jason said, "Hey, when it's kind of need something to sleep," I just kept listening to him go off on that subject for a little bit.
Oh yes, he's your NyQuil, isn't he? He's the walking NyQuil bottle.
I am stopping by your house after the show. Right?
What? Well, I don't know what flavor of NyQuil he would be. He could be. Well, I don't know. Ginger. What would you consider it?
Oh, I don't know. But,
Flavor of Michael. I would go with vanilla ginger.
Oh, vanilla ginger. That's a delightful flavor. I love
Yes,
it. It
indeed.
sounds scrumptious.
sounds like a
in there
new Coke
whatsoever.
product.
Right? Yeah. And now, original vanilla ginger.
Yes, absolutely.
The 1804 the 1804 formulation.
Oh man, how many of those would they would
It's
sell?
not
if
even
they
the
brought
normal
that
vanilla, man. It's vanilla bean, that ultra bright white.
Oh, dude, vanilla bean's the best. I'm sorry. You can't beat vanilla bean. It's a great flavor.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Gentlemen, I have missed being on that show. Ben, you have been an excellent guest.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Sounds like you would be. We miss you here a lot too. So next time,
Not so much anymore.
yeah, that's okay.
Jason's skipping that completely. Sean, thank God you're there, man. You're keeping that show going. I love you, brother.
No problem, sir.
He's the glue that's holding everything together.
Yep.
Wow.
I am made of horse hooves.
Oh man, it's been great, and Ben, hearing your take on some of the stuff that's going on, just currently and in the past has been really interesting. I know that Jason's take on some of the stuff kind of mimics some of your own stuff, and it's just been nice to hear. I think, and as seen online and everything else, like you've got quite the following, and hey, keep it up, keep it going, and anything that we can do to help that, which I think are 4 or 5 listeners now, right?
Sir, as of this morning, it was 6.
Whatever it takes us to boost your sales, bud.
Wow, that's an increase of 40% or something like
Well,
that.
I mean, we had somebody comment from Mexico, so
Yeah,
we're
he was our 6th
All that.
listener.
it's
Yeah.
the 6th listener.
That's what I'm saying. We're up
Seis.
to 6.
Hey, that's
Seis
fine.
listener.
Everybody
Chris
counts. It's,
Martinez is now infected.
just remember Dr. Seuss. Every voice counts. 40 years of who,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's the thing, is that you treat everyone with respect, until they screw you, and then you can just do whatever you want.
A man after
We're
my own
looking at
heart.
you, Marvel.
Once again, the expression,
but
the
you know
opinions
what?
expressed by Raymond Perez are not solely that of Vagabond Nerds.
I always feel like I'm a very forgiving person. So, if the thing about Marvel and all that kind of stuff is that, they're allowed to make mistakes. Everyone's human. So, if they realize the mistake they've made, just like anybody else, then, let's just move on. That's the type of thing. We all want to enjoy life. We all want to see things. We all want to pursue things that make us happy. That's really the important thing. If you're not happy, then what's the point? I mean, you got to be happy. And doing comics is what makes me happy. I love interacting with people, and I love seeing their talent grow, and mature. And working with AP for over 35 years, or close to 35 years, you've seen a lot of stuff happen. I've seen the black and white bust and boom. I've seen the image bust and boom, and boom and bust. I've seen the rise of independence. I've seen the change of image. I mean, I've seen just about every single thing that's been going on since the early 80s, and that's where the big change in the comics happened. So before then, you just had Marvel and DC, and maybe, a few other companies, but like Atlas, but Marvel and DC were the main game in town. Nobody else was doing it. When Turtles came along, then a direct market, that's changed the whole equation. Okay, that means anybody could be a comic book publisher if they had the gumption to want to do it, or the insanity to want to do it. But the trick is, okay, so anyway, what happened was when I moved from AP to Dallas, because of my wife's occupation. I was working out of my house, and I wasn't really doing much of anything. It was just a long period of, I was taking care of my in-laws and things. So there was a long period where I wasn't doing anything, either for AP or for myself. I mean, intermittently I would do things in here, and then Kickstarter comes along, and I said, I could make some money doing Kickstarter, and then that's where I did that's where a lot of my income came for a long time. But then I finally decided, you know what, I'm done with this. Okay, I'm done just working, sitting in my house, not doing anything. So I went ahead and got permission. I talked to the guys at AP, said, look, I'm going to open up a Dallas satellite branch, okay, because I want to be back in the game. Okay, because I was so far out of the game that I became rusty and didn't have any desire to draw anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't have any creative spark. So, and I thought, if I continue down this path, I'll just be a forgotten old man that would, and we may, people say, I sort of remember him, that type of thing. So, so I said, okay, look, I'm going to open up a satellite office in Dallas, because one thing I found out going to all these shows in Dallas and the locals is that, damn, there's a lot of talent out here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's tons of people who want to draw and write and do comics, but they have no conduit to do it.
Yeah, there's no outlet
Okay,
here.
there's no outlet. They either have to do it
Yeah,
themselves. Yes.
And you got one sitting right next to you. I mean, I think, and I'm not trying to toot Jason's horn because, quite frankly, he does it on a nightly basis by himself. But I mean, you've got.
I'm afraid to ask.
We've seen Jason's art, right? And and again, I feel like I'm just tooting the horn there, but he needs to be doing something like that, right? And there's talent all over the place that they've got to have that, like you said, that outlet and somewhere to go. And
Right.
Sometimes I would look at Jason and I'm thinking, dude, you're just wasting some of the stuff, man.
Yeah,
We
his
got to
art,
get you out there, bud.
Jason's art is rather fantastic.
Well, I mean, that's the thing and I thought to myself, it's like finding a gold vein and not having any of the tools to tap into that market.
All right.
Or an oil field.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, I got this big oil field, but there's no way for me to tap into it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I had to do to tap into it, I created a satellite office, so now I can build a well to tap into that untapped resource. Nice. So that's why I started.
And Jason loves to get tapped.
Yeah, he does.
I knew it was coming. This is why I thank Sean. I did not thank you, Raymond, because I knew this was coming.
So the idea was AP when I started for AP, one of the things I wanted to do was to find new talent. Okay, because I knew that was the lifeblood of any comic book company. Okay, yes, you can rely on the characters, but we can't because AP is an independently owned driven company, and so it can only do as well as the next creator comes along and wants to do something with us. Now we've been lucky in that like I said, I can draw and I can do stuff, and so if let's say AP is in a bind, it needs to have a book to be filled in, I could do a book. Okay, and we are also lucky to have Fred Perry, who is also sort of like our Jack Kirby. Anything you want to do, says, "Hey, Fred, we're sort of late on this book. Can you do it?" He says, "All right." So he does it, and he hasn't left. He's not worked for any other company except for AP.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she's worked for others, but he's always does stuff for AP.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I thought, I asked myself, and the AP was sort of floundering, okay, in its output. Most of the output it was doing was like sort of fad of the year type thing. They were doing steampunk. Right now Trump is the big fad, so now they're doing a lot of Trump-based parody comics, and doing a lot of political parody. It says that's fine. You want
to hold on. Who was signed just there when the name Trump came up? Was that you, Sean?
Take a guess.
That was
Raymond.
Sean. Yeah.
Take a guess.
Actually, I love the one that has it's the takeoff of the Hulk issue that introduces Wolverine.
Yes.
That is by far of all the things I've seen. That is by far my favorite.
Well, I love that cover. It's very iconic, and I figured that was a perfect venue to show the two characters battling it out.
Yes.
But
Bernigo.
Anyway,
that's awesome.
The reason that AP exists, okay, because no other reason is that I want it to be a conduit for new talent. Now, when my brother, who's running the company now, Joe, he has a certain outlook on the industry, and I have a certain outlook on the industry. Now, he looks at AP as just being another comic book company. Okay, I look at AP as being an asset. Okay, what I mean by that is that AP is in an advantageous position that a lot of other newer companies don't have.
Right.
Okay. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Diamond Comics has a very strict policy on who gets in their catalog.
No, absolutely.
Okay, I asked a dozen people, over hundreds of creators, and said, what is the most difficult thing that you've encountered?
Get on Diamond's
to
list.
get in Diamond's catalog.
Yeah.
Okay, and why is that? Why is Diamond so strict on allowing new publishers in? Okay, because they don't want to have to deal with all these new publishers. Because most of them are not even going to be in business in a year anyway. At least that's their thinking.
They want someone who's ironed out all their kinks already.
Right, and
to come in.
also, they don't believe in the product enough to want to spend their resources. To sell 500-600 copies.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and I understand that. I mean, that's
from a business standpoint, it does make sense,
Right.
but it is difficult.
But
exactly.
The thing is that back in the old day, we had more than one distributor.
Yeah.
Okay, now Diamond's the only game in town.
Monopoly,
So if these guys had started their company back in the 80s where there was like a dozen distributors, if Diamond didn't pick you up, Capital City would pick you up.
Yeah.
Heroes World would pick you up. There would be somebody out there who would pick you up.
Yeah.
Now Diamond's the only game in
Just
town.
a barren land with all. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
They're the man in the high castle.
It's Tank Girl and their water and power.
That's right. They cannot. They're the utility company, and they can switch off your power anytime they want.
Yeah.
So therefore it was difficult. I found out for new publishers to get into Diamond. But then I thought, well, why would you want to get into Diamond catalog? You got the web. You
Yeah.
can reach thousands of people in an instant.
Yeah, Amazon. I mean, just there's 100 different ways you can get there.
That's right.
Unfortunately, though,
in this day and age, that's how it's going to succeed. Because I mean, we don't need a Diamond. The smaller publishers and smaller creators, they don't need Diamond anymore. Not to get their stuff out there.
yeah,
Well,
right.
they do and they don't. Okay, one of the difficult things about the web is how to monetize it.
Unfortunately, we are going to have to leave it at that question because we are entirely out of question. We could do this for another 2 or 3 hours easily.
Yeah, we
and we
could.
would love to
I
have
would,
you back
yeah.
and ask the rest and answer that question, or at least explore that question, because you're a great guest. We really appreciate you coming on board. We really
And next time I'll be there.
yeah, and
Absolutely.
yeah. Next time Raymond will actually be here in
Yes.
physical. We'd like to thank
I'm
Jansen.
gonna try the not dying thing over this next few years.
Yes,
Please-
please.
please don't.
Yes, let's change that. So again, Mr. Ben Dunn, thank you. He's with Antarctic Press, antarcticpress.com, I believe is.
Yes.
Or is it appress.com? Which
Antarctic dash press.com.
okay, cool. You can also find him on Facebook. We'd like to thank Jansen and DallasOnAir.com. Thank you, Austin, for being our fill-in board op for the day. We do appreciate you every
Yes,
time.
I appreciate you guys letting me fill in again. This show's awesome, and I love Ziggy, but if he's not here, I will be.
We love having you, man.
We love having you.
Thank
And
you.
Oh, I miss sexy Austin today.
Thank you.
Shucks.
Thank you.
All right, so for all the nerdians out there, please like and follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Just look at Vagabond Nerds. We're the only ones on there currently. Our email, if you have any suggestions or thoughts or questions, is vagabondnerds@gmail.com. Thank you to Sean as well. Raymond, go back to bed. And again, we appreciate you stopping by.
It's my honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll see y'all next time.
Yep.